This is small. This is the smallest sweet roll you can buy. There's 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. So yeah, tent and everything. Pass that around.
Yeah,
get a feel.
Tent,
sleeping pad, and air up for the sleeping pad.
Is this the one person?
Yeah, 1 person. Thanks, dude.
How long did it take you to pack every morning?
Yeah, someone asked me that same question the other day. Getting camp set up probably took me 30 minutes. Camp set up, like clothes changed if I wanted to change clothes. Got my food out and got it ready to cook, probably 30 minutes. I was the slowest because I'm like all super tedious, and I think it took me an hour and 10 minutes. The quickest, the bivvy guys that had bivvies, who were miserable every night, by the way. Yeah, so speed is not worth it. Who? Jason had a bivvy. And he was in that bivvy for 12 hours the first night. And he was in a bad place the next morning. We needed coffee. He was fine. But he was just like, my mind is elsewhere. So tent, for that 12 hours of rain that we all sat in with no dinner, no hanging out, no sunshine, 30 degrees, the tent was the only way to go. It's worth they were wishing they had it. I did not have a bivvy also. So I had a wool hat that I wore to bed every night since it was teetering around 30 degrees every night. No, it was all fine. It was enough, I think, that it couldn't freeze. Arc'teryx jacket, down jacket. I took one without a hood, so I packed down smaller. I couldn't find it this morning, so it's the same exact jacket that I did take, the Atom LT. It's down. It packs up super tiny. This thing is so warm. This kept me warm every night when we slept. It's incredible, dude. The Atom LT is the only jacket I have. And then I brought these gloves just in case we rode when it was really cold. This is something I could have done without. Could have definitely done without these extra weight that I didn't need. So that was my blue sack, which represented cold weather gear. So I tried to correlate color and what side of the bike so I knew exactly where to go so I could minimize my time and my packing procedures. I will tell you this about the small sweet roll with the tent. If I did not get this rolled up just almost exactly perfect down to this size each time, it was a real pain getting it back in that sweet roll. I would recommend the medium. The medium sweet roll gives you a little extra room. You could add a few other things in there if you wanted. But this will fit in the small if you want to go really small. Or if you have drop bar levers, the medium is a little more than you need, so it's the small. My sleeping pad's also in here. Yeah, here, I'll pull this all out. So this is the UL1. Here's the tent stakes. Just feel how light these are. Pass those around. Here's the tent stakes. I mean, they almost weigh more than the poles. So the tent's here. Rainfly is all here. Vestibule is all here. And then this is the most incredible thing ever. So you guys familiar with the Thermarest? The Thermarest Pro Light? They've got the insulation built in, so they don't roll up flat. They're really small, they're really lightweight, but they're not anything compared to this because this airs up to 4 inches thick. And they have long versions, they have wider versions. This is the Mummy version. And so to air this up, it would take a lot of air, and you don't want to use your mouth. You don't want to use your mouth on this because you don't want moisture inside of it. So this guy will open up, and it's a non-release valve. It doesn't let air out unless you really push it. And then this guy that I put everything inside of is my bag to air up this guy. So you just open it up, put your hand inside, close it really fast, and this pushes air into my sleeping pad.
How many times does that take?
It takes quite a few times. You get bored of this very quick. But the weight savings and the space savings of this and this combined is completely worth it. So I would get this guy pretty well aired up, and then I would finish it off with my mouth, but you want to minimize moisture inside the bag. But you just do this kind of over and over, and just capture air, and it just pushes straight into this guy right here.
One CO2, fill that up.
Maybe. But you,
Try it?
no. I don't know how you would get it in there.
There's always a way.
There's a way.
Says the engineer.
You could maybe use a bike pump. I bet you could use a bike pump somehow, I'm sure. We could figure that out. That's an awesome idea. Yeah, so all of that kind of fit in together. And yeah, this is the tent, best tent I've ever had in my entire life. Big Agnes is killing it right now. Yeah, check it out. You're more than welcome. That's the Q Core SL. Oh, really? Really? That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's awesome. So that's all. This is all in the front. This is all on that sweet roll.
Yeah, so do you bring something to patch, like if you get a hole in that?
I do have a patch. I'll pull it out. Yep. I've got a tent patch and a stint. I've got all that. Yeah. Let's see. They're awesome. So these dry bags, once again, the cool thing about these dry bags, these dry bags from Sea to Summit, they'll capture air inside of them, but then you can push all the air out of the bottom, and as you push all the air out of the bottom, it just compresses down, and then no water can get inside these. We got torrential downpour. Everything in these Sea to Summit bags is totally dry. It's totally dry. But yeah, all the air pushes out of the bottom. It's called the vac dry sack, evac dry sack. And on the other side, I had extra shorts. I wore Surly and Rab wool clothing the entire trip. These were kind of a synthetic overshort that I wore over Ibex wool bibs. I did wear bibs underneath, and these are fully wool, 100% merino wool. Wore these over the top just for some protection. And then yeah, you guys got to check out these wool tops. They're not like regular jerseys. I didn't want to wear a regular jersey. I just wanted to be really comfortable all day. And you can see like where my backpack wore into it, but this thing held up the whole time, and I still wear this every time I go out for a trip. Nothing wrong with the regular jersey. It just smells really bad. It doesn't, and all the wool stuff doesn't smell bad. So I wore all wool just so we didn't smell terrible at the end of 6 days of riding. So then just water in the gas tanks. The gas tank is the best water holder you've ever seen. It's right in front of your face, and you just shove it right back in. It's awesome. This wasn't the light that I used on the trip. We didn't need the light, so I kind of did this as a demonstration. If you know that you're not going to be with people, if you know you're not going to be with people that want to ride at night, that don't want to ride at night, which we ended up being with 10 guys, so riding at night wasn't a good idea in the desert. I had this light. This is the 1200 lumen Night Rider, and I chose this one because on low, this has by far the best battery life out of any of the Night Riders or any other lithium-ion battery light that exists. In this case, I could have been much better off with something smaller like this, like a 500 or a 750 lumen Night Rider, where I could actually really easily slide this guy off also and use it for a camp light. Yep. Something we didn't talk about that's super important is if you can have something on your bike, if you're going to whittle it down and you're going to be very minimal, everything you bring must serve more than one purpose. If it serves more than one purpose, besides your clothing, of course, if it serves more than one purpose, then that comes with you. And that's something I didn't think about. You know, we did it kind of plush, really heavy, but I would have not brought this light. And I actually kept this battery inside my gas tank, so it took it took up storage space. I did not need this. This would have served two purposes, been my camp light, my in-tent light, and everything. This would have been by far the better choice.
How'd you charge it?
What about recharge?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, recharge. This is by far the best recharging battery that exists. This recharged my phone and still had battery life after 7 full charges of my cell phone. And it's from Anchor.
Yeah, I got 2 of those.
They're incredible. Yeah.
It's got like 12,000 watts in it. Like an average iPhone.
So that's my gas tank. I just had food. I had a battery. I had a knife in there. My knife is on my workbench right now. Let me grab my knife just so we have a visual. So, patch kit for my sleeping pad. It's a patch just in case we needed it. We were all tubeless, so all of us had no tubes in our tires. Out of 10 guys on 250 miles for 7 days, we had no flats, 0 flats. Every single one of us brought something to change a flat. I did use this. We had a guy whose tubeless was not sealed all the way, and he hadn't added sealant for like 7 months and came on the desert ramble. So I pulled over on the side of the road before we hit the single track, and I had another thing I don't have on the bike that I did carry with me were 2 of these. I had these in my backpack. This is extra sealant, just a really small shot of Stan's no tube sealant. I used up all of my sealant in that first day on that one guy's tubeless setup on his 29. He had an ECR on his 29 Plus. After I did that and we re-pumped up his tire, he had 0 problems the rest of the trip. He just needed fresh sealant. That was all he needed. It was just leaking around the bead. But probably one of the heaviest things I carried on the trip is a fat bike tube. If you've never felt a fat bike tube, it's pretty awesome. 8mm wrench just in case we had a pedal issue. Have to have an 8mm wrench. Extra valve cord just in case we ripped while we were pumping up a tire. We messed up a valve core. I brought one for tubeless setup specifically. And extra bolts and a couple other things. Just extra water bottle bolts. So all of that was in my Ziploc. I tried to keep things as isolated as possible, so they were grouped together. Grouped together things: food, coffee, tools. All these different things were kind of grouped together. So that was all in my main compartment. And then I had tire boot right here. Tubeless plugs, almost like a plug for your 4-wheeler. In there, patches, another patch kit, and then the little screwdriver tool that you use to push the plugs in if you need it. Then I was the designated mechanic on the trip. So on this side, I cut spokes for everyone's fat bikes, and there were a few different links. I made sure I had spoke links for everybody's bikes on the trip. And so if we did break a spoke or we had an issue, we had spoke tool, we had everything we needed. I could change it out if I needed to. So I had extra spokes. The one thing that none of us brought enough of because of all the water crossings, chain lube. Just bring a whole bottle of chain lube because you're going to use it. Or 2 of these, which would be less space, but just a little bottle. It's awesome. So yeah, that's the whole frame bag. Of course, that's just water. I'm not going to take that out. And then this was the bag that I got in and out of more than any of them. Oops. And as you can see, this guy will take way more stuff. This is the Viscasha. This is the biggest one they make. So this is all my toiletries. I isolated it all just because I thought it made sense, and then I really, really needed a full waterproof bag for toilet paper. Something that Adam Gribben mentioned that I didn't think about was wet wipes.
Yeah.
Bring wet wipes. I didn't need them. I probably could have used them. I could have used them. Oh, here's my pillow. You talk about comfort. I will sacrifice anything for this pillow. This is the best. We're gonna inflate this in a second. But yeah, soap, bug spray, toothpaste, little soap pads. I didn't have wet wipes, but I had alcohol pads. I had a little bitty travel toothbrush that folded up that I don't know where it went. It's gone. This is actually the toilet paper roll I took on the trip. I still have it. That's how much I used out of a full roll. Yeah, that's all right. Matches, emergency matches. So if we needed these things burn like crazy, you can get these over at Summit. Yeah, totally waterproof. They'll light. They're freaking awesome. Here, we'll light one. Why not? Yeah. Oh. Did they? Yeah. I broke it. It's my fault.
I'm buying me those.
Hold on. Oh, gosh, dang it. I promise they worked. That's why you have more, okay, in there. Anyway, we'll leave that one. Yeah, bring more than one. And then one thing I could have 100% done without that I don't know why, but it took up a ton of room was a towel. I did bring a towel. You do not need to bring a towel. You do not need to bring a change of clothes. If you aren't worried about being comfortable, don't worry about it. But this towel, I think I used a couple of times, but really not necessary. Something I could have done without for sure. Yep, you can have that, yes. And then last but not least, 30 degree marmot down.
Is that a down?
There's a down 30 degree marmot bag. No, the tent was amazing. That tent, the best. This bag is water resistant. With it packed down here, it didn't get nearly as much rain. It didn't get wet at all. Yeah, so I think this guy's pretty water resistant as well, so those combined together, it was great. That Snickers is from the other day, so you can totally have that, bud.
You worms, don't worry about it. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Hey. We'll be proud.
Then in my bag, my camera. I had a headlamp that runs on AAA batteries for camp. I had on my head. Even if I would have brought that, I still would have brought this just to walk around. It's so good, hands-free, AAA batteries. They make rechargeable ones, but for this trip, we needed less rechargeable things. So we got a AAA one that's a little bigger. Pliers, some gloves. Oh, there's another pillow. I did not bring two pillows. I just think I forgot I grabbed one. I did not bring that. Extra clothes. Here's another shirt from Surly. Check this shirt out. I love the wool stuff from Surly. This was my absolute favorite piece for the day. So many different, it goes through so many different temperatures. This wool, 100% merino wool, full-on riding jersey. This thing is absolutely amazing. This is Crystal's, and she hasn't worn hers as much as mine. Mine has holes all over it, which is awesome. But couldn't have done it without this. This is just my go-to. I wore it every single day. 100% wool. Oatmeal, absolute must. I had probably 6 freeze-dried meals in this bag as well, and that's what I ate almost the entire trip, along with some oatmeal. I don't know. I didn't weigh it. I should have. Here's my stove, my cook set. Snow Peak, these are titanium pots. I learned really quickly, if you do have a freeze-dried meal, don't pour the freeze-dried meal in your pot, and then put the water in it, just pour the water in the bag. I don't know why. Everybody made fun of me over and over and over. But then I had to clean my pot out, and it's like peanut butter inside there. This is my entire stove, fuel, everything all in one. So this is I have an Optimus stove, Optimus Crux, but I also have the Snow Peak stove. And so I brought this guy so I didn't have to use matches. This is a flint. Because I didn't get the stove that has the automatic starter because I wanted to at least feel like I was doing something, right? So yeah, this guy is awesome. Crystal got this for me. So you get the...
How many of those did you use?
I went through 1.5. 1.5 this size. We weren't at a super high elevation. So elevation changes how much fuel you use.
Did each one of you use your own stuff?
Everybody pretty much. We shared every once in a while as it was convenient. But yeah, and then the top of my stove, Snow Peak titanium stove, is this little guy right here. And yeah, it just folds out just like that. Everything kind of comes out, screws right on top of your fuel. Get the fuel going, and this thing will rock. I mean, less than 3 minutes boiling water. You're ready for coffee, you're ready for whatever. It's friggin' awesome. And so yeah, you just use this guy. You can strike it real close, and it'll catch fire. And this thing's pretty wind resistant too. This guy folds out like that. That's how you turn on and off regulate your heat, and it just folds right back. Awesome setup. Yeah, this guy just sits right on top, just like that. And probably could have gone with just one pot, but I did use this because it was cold to set over the top to help boil quicker. So that boiled my water even faster and saved fuel. And let's see. And then, yes, the most important piece is the coffee. So I didn't boil water on this just because I want to keep this guy really nice. But Snow Peak 450 double wall titanium, 400 milliliters. This thing is phenomenal. I bought this little $10 guy. This is the here, I'm getting coffee everywhere. This is the Gsi Outdoors Pour Over coffee guy, and it just snaps straight to the top of your mug. You put the grounds in the top, you pour it over, booyah, coffee. It's totally amazing. And then this guy pulls right off. If you use just a tiny, I mean, you don't even have to clean it out. I just like shook it out as hard as I could, put it right back in with the coffee grounds. And of course I've got my salsa titanium spork, which is totally rad. You should pass that around. It's like my favorite little guy. And yeah, you're good to go. Here's the coffee left over from the Cocopelli trip. I haven't cleaned it out yet. I would not drink these. These would just be really bad. But yeah, I mean, every time we stopped to like refill or to have lunch or whatever, I would stop and make coffee. And everyone's like, "You're gonna make coffee?" I was like, "It's not gonna take but 2 seconds. I got extra water from my food. I'm gonna make coffee." And everyone's like, "Hey, you got any extra coffee?" So I ended up making coffee for multiple people. Yeah, this thing's the best $10 you could ever spend in your entire life. A couple of guys are big coffee nerds, and they brought whole bean coffee. And there's a little titanium grinder, and they would grind the beans right there at campsite before we drank it, just to have like the freshest of fresh of their grounds. So yeah, that's it. That's a lot, but that's pretty much it.
It takes less than you do.
What'd you say?
His table's small.
Yeah, it is. And Brian, feel free, man. I'm done. So that's what I brought.
I'll walk through mine very briefly. I don't have nearly as much technical gear as Bobby did. I did. And this is actually a beautiful representation of all the different kind of ways that you can pack. You are packing a lot like my boss, my wife, basically everybody above me in my life. You pack like them. You're planned out. Everything's thought through.
That's what they did. They made me.
This is actually really similar to a bike packing setup that I've used in the past, and much like that trip, I threw it together literally the night before I left. And that's just the way that I work. It drives my wife absolutely crazy. But just to, real basics like I went through earlier. It's about shelter, it's about food, and just little things that help, carry you along the way, safety gear, cooking gear, repair gear, stuff like that. So this is just a real basic summer, maybe around here I'd call it shoulder season. So late summer, early fall, maybe early spring, or late spring, early summer. This is the setup that I would use around here. Starting from left to right, I basically was started at the back of the bike and then unpacked it going forward. And then all of this stuff was in the middle as well. So what we have here is in the center of the bag, this is my sleeping pad. It's just a standard air core. It's 2.5 inches thick. Real simple, durable, and it's relaxing. I found that skimping on the sleeping pad is never a good idea. I need to be rested when I'm out, when I'm hiking, when I'm bike packing, when I'm doing anything. I need a good night's rest, so I just go ahead and carry a nice, thick sleeping pad. It's standard air core, no insulation. Here's that first aid kit, super simple, 2-person kit. Bobby can get these things for you. They're available through our distributor and lots of places as well. They're available across the street too. Hat. I'm bald. I need a hat. I carry a hat with me every single where I go. If it's for sheltering from the sun or from the cold. This is a windproof hat, and it's really, really nice. So in those chilly evenings when it gets down to 50 degrees, I'd be wearing this. Here's that super basic camp towel that I was talking about before. It's not very big. It packs down real small. It dries very, very quickly, and it's nice to towel off. If you are doing a multi-day trip like Bobby did, and you're riding through the sweltering heat, when you get to that river, no matter how cloudy it is,
Bobby says he didn't need a towel.
You didn't need it? Well, yeah, it's so arid, you dried out right away.
It's true.
But if you go jump in that river, it's nice to be able to towel off. If you have some wet stuff or if you're cleaning dishes, it's nice to be able to have a towel. It's always just a helpful thing to have. Big, thick wool socks. These are expedition weight wool socks. Keep my feet warm. I absolutely love them. When you're packing for the trip, it's always good to have things that can serve double duty. So I have a pair of shorts that can zip to pants. And this is really nice to have because it's warm out, you have shorts. If it's a little colder, you have pants. And it's, one thing that serves two purposes. It really cuts down on the amount of stuff that you have to bring. A very light and packable rain jacket is always a nice thing. This serves double duty for me as also my windbreaker. If it's cold, this is the outer shell that I'll have. Helps trap in some of the heat. So standard waterproof jacket, still dirty from the last trip that I took. Change of clothes as well. New cycling jersey, new bibs. It's always really nice to have these, especially if you crash and you tear your bibs. It's nice to have a backup pair as well. So I always have at least one more item that I can cycle with. Bobby was talking about his down insulated jacket that he had, his down jacket. This is my synthetic jacket, so it's the same kind of thing. It's very slim, but it's also very warm as well. I won't cover up the microphone. I've had this one for a long time. You probably remember this from Frostbike 2 years ago when we were biking. So it's actually done really well for itself. This has been a lot of places with me. It's synthetic. As different from down, synthetic will insulate when it's wet. As an emergency piece, I like this a little bit better, but in all honesty, down packs down better and is lighter, and I use that for a lot of trips as well. But this has served as my emergency safety piece for a lot of different scenarios. It was actually kind of fun to take this out of the bag because this has been packed up since November for me. It's actually been sitting in the stuff sack. This is my piece that I carry with me every single fat bike ride that I go on, even just the short one on the trail down the street from me, spending an hour, maybe an hour and a half on single track snow fat bike trails in Minnesota. This is with me on every single ride. You never know when a mechanical is going to happen. You never know when somebody else is going to have a mechanical or somebody might get hurt. And when it's cold out, and it's not just necessarily Minnesota cold, 5 degrees, negative 10 degrees. It's 20 degrees. It's 40 degrees. You can get hypothermia in 40 degrees for sure if you're out long enough. Having an insulated piece like this, a security piece like this is, it's essential, really, if you're going to be out in cold weather. Always plan for the worst. Murphy's Law. This is that bivy sack that I was talking about before. So the tent that Bobby has, that's a very ultralight tent. That packs down real small. It's very, very light. This is about as minimal as it gets. It's basically a rain jacket for a sleeping bag. That's all that this is, really. You will get a little bit of condensation on the inside every time that you use it, so you do need to allow time for your bag and this thing to dry out every morning. That's just part of the process. You would need to have some kind of a tarp or a rain jacket over your face because this is the piece that goes over your face. It's just a mesh net to keep the bugs out, and that's it. So this would be my shelter, my sleeping bag, super basic, marmot sleeping bag there, marmot sleeping bag here. This is a synthetic 40-degree bag. This one is just about worn out and done. I'd be willing to sell this for about 20 bucks. I've had this for a long time, and I've really used this thing. It's been to a lot of places with me, and it's about 10 years old, and I've used it every year at least 4 times a year. So, but a basic bag like this, 40-degree, packs down super small, really nice. Marmot always makes high-quality stuff. I've been really happy with this bag as well. Synthetic insulation again, in case it gets wet. I still wanted this thing to be able to work since it's kind of my do-all. Oh, this thing just fell off, didn't it? This is my do-all bag that I have kind of for any situation, and so I chose a synthetic bag for that reason because I know that if it gets wet, if I maybe don't take all the necessary steps I need to, it'll still keep me warm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With all of the sleeping gear that you have and the extra clothes and stuff like that, how low of a temperature could you be comfortable in?
When that bag was new, I could have gone down to probably 30 degrees with the stuff that I had. Maybe pushed 30. But I really beat up that bag and I've left it compressed for a long periods of time. And now that bag's good down to about 50 degrees on its own for me. And if I had all this other stuff on, maybe 40, 35. I do have other sleeping bags in my allotment. My 15-degree bag, which is a down bag, that one is really my go-to if I'm ever uncertain of what is going to, what the weather's going to do, if it might get really cold, or if I'm going to be going up into elevation. I just don't risk it. I just bring the 15-degree bag. That's another thing too. When you're selecting what kind of bag you want and the temperature rating for the bag, 15 degrees on my Marmot 15-degree bag. That's 15 degrees to sustain life. That's not comfortable. That's not a happy 15 degrees. That just means that you're able to wake up in the morning, you're able to stay alive overnight, basically. So plan it accordingly. If you're going to have temperatures going down near the lowest temperature rating on your bag, you might want to step down or have some clothes that you can throw in the bag with you. Any other questions before we jump forward? All right. Now getting into the small bits and the small pieces of gear that I have. On this bike, I have a suspension fork, so I have a shock pump. Even when I just mountain bike on a little short 5-mile ride, I always have a shock pump with me just in case I need to throw some air in the fork, or if it's a full suspension bike, in the shock as well. On these kind of trips, I always bring with a pump, a hand pump. CO2 is great for a single ride or a group ride that you're doing. But a pump you can use multiple times. A CO2 cartridge is a one-shot deal. So I make sure that I always bring a pump with me because you never know how many times that you're actually going to need it. In this bag as well, I have a replacement tube and tire lever. And this actually should go in this bag, but this is a way to start fire, a backup way to start fire. I always carry storm matches with me as well. Same exact kind of matches that Bobby had in there. I keep the tube protected. I put it in this nylon mesh little ditty bag that I have because I like to keep the tube protected and I don't want it to get pinched or I don't want debris to get in here and compromise the integrity of the tube. I always carry a multi-tool with me that can service every single bolt that I have on the bike, including the pedals too. So on this bike, well, me in particular, I run Crank Brothers pedals. They all nowadays they're 8 millimeters. So I made sure that this tool has an 8mm wrench on it. I also have a chain tool on here, as well as a hex. As well as a Torx wrench on here too. So every single part on the bike can be serviced by this multi-tool, and I've gone through and double-checked it. And I've actually used it too. I've practiced in the garage as I'm just doing standard maintenance on my bike. I've practiced using this tool so that when I have to use it out in the field, it's not the first time that I've used it, and I'm not trying to figure it out in the moment that I actually need it. For for dining, for dinnerware. We have a nice little silicone bowl that collapses down. It packs down really, really well. I always have with me now, actually, this last year I started carrying a emergency blanket. It's that standard space foil blanket thing. Back home in Minnesota, we had a couple situations involving people with the brands. Nothing bad, but we had a couple situations where these really played a critical role in making sure that somebody was safe. And after witnessing that, these things are so light, they're so cheap. I keep one in my truck, and I keep one with me on every single cold ride that I do. It's right there with that jacket all the time. It takes up such little space. Why not? I also, whenever I'm bike packing, whenever I'm going to be in an overnight situation, even if I have a great pair of headlamps or a great headlamp like Bobby has on his bike, I always have a headlamp with me as well. Headlamps just make life. Headlamps make life a lot easier when you have to run to the latrine, when you're cooking, anything that you want to do. If you're tent bound because it's raining, having a headlamp is just a really nice luxury to have, and it just makes life a lot easier. If you don't have one, you'll find a whole bunch of uses for it at home as well. Doing automotive repair, man, is it nice to have a headlamp looking in those dark recesses of your engine. My stove and my cooking setup. This I would say is a fairly average setup. There's some things in here that aren't terribly ultralight. This actually is pretty ultralight. This is a nice little tiny butane stove. This is an MSR stove that we have on the top here. The fuel canister serves as the base of the stove as well. And then I have a Thai pot that goes on here, a dirty Thai pot at that. So Thai pot, this is how I boil my water. This is how I heat up my water for my coffee in the morning as well as my oatmeal. I apologize for not having my food with me. I actually did think I had my food with me, but something happened between now and last week when I was using these things, and the food is not here. The food that I would have with me, however, would be for morning and afternoon and evening. In the morning, I typically have oatmeal with a goo shot, so like an energy goo type thing. I throw an energy goo in there because it gives it a little bit more flavor. It gives me a hit of sugar. I love sugar. I'm Scandinavian. It's in our diet. That and salt, we're really, really good at ingesting those two things. So I have a little bit of oatmeal. I'll have 2 servings of oatmeal. If you call a packet of Quaker oatmeal, call that a serving. I have 2 of those in the morning with some energy goo in it. If it's a short trip, we'll actually bring boiled eggs as well. So I'll have a boiled egg in the morning, and then Tang and coffee. I love Tang when I'm camping. Yes, they still make that stuff. Absolutely. You can get it at your local grocer. It's sugary. It helps you get going in the morning. It gives you that initial hit of energy, and it's got a whole bunch of vitamin C in it. It's what astronauts use, so it can't be that bad. I really like the stuff in the morning, so I always bring a little bit with me, throw it in my Nalgene. And then coffee, I'm pretty simple when it comes to coffee, but I do like decent coffee. I use that Starbucks instant coffee, those little Via packets. That's fantastic. It's good. It's better than Folgers Instant, and it's packs down super small. I don't have to bring a French press with me or a portable battery-operated grinder or anything like that. It's just a little tiny packet, and it's easy to pack out the garbage. And then for lunch, I'll do, if it's a really big day and I need to have some robust calories, I'll bring tortillas and individual tuna packets. So not a canned tuna, but a packet of tuna or a packet of salmon. There's, Star-Kissed or Sun-Kissed? They make a ton of different flavors that you can get, and they're heavy because they're in water, but it's also really robust, and you can usually split it between 2 people, so 1 packet will serve 2 people. And if you have a tortilla with you, you can take some mayonnaise or mustard packets from your local gas station, bring those with. Those pack in real good. You throw a little mayo, a little tuna in there, a little tortilla. You got yourself a good tuna salad sandwich in the morning or in the afternoon. And then we'll also bring a cup of soup with us too. It's a nice salty, basically it's a chicken broth type thing with just a few noodles in it. But it's in colder days, it's really nice to have that hot liquid. It's just kind of everybody likes chicken noodle soup from when they were a kid, and when you have it out when you're camping, it's just kind of an uplifting thing, like a campfire. And then in the evening, we'll usually do 1 of 2 things. Since so many of our trips happen in Minnesota, and since there's so much fish in Minnesota because we have so many lakes, we'll have fish, and if we're lucky, we'll have fish, and we'll have instant potatoes in the evening, or we'll do a freeze-dried meal in the evening. Those are our 2 go-to meals for evening food. And then, we'll chase that down with maybe a little bit of whiskey from the flask that we bring in as well. So that would be what our meals look like throughout the day that I don't have here in front of me. That and water, lots of water. I have a MSR MiniWorks water pump, which magically disappeared as well. And that's about this big. It's fairly big as far as water pumps go. There's much smaller ones out there. I really like this one because it's so rebuildable in the field. They have access to it across the street if they don't have it actually in the store. But it's a ceramic filter. It works for all of North America against all the pathogens that you'd find in the water. And because it's a ceramic filter, all you need is a Brillo pad to service it. It disassembles super easy. I've disassembled it in my lap sitting in a canoe, and also I've disassembled it on the side of the road getting water from flowing ditches as well. And it just disassembles. You take the Brillo pad, clean off the ceramic filter, rinse it off really quick. You can use dirty water to rinse it off, and then assemble it back together again, and then you're good to go for a liter to a gallon of water, or even more based on how dirty the water is. And we've filtered some really nasty water with that stuff as well. So that's the full assortment of gear that I would be bringing with me for just a standard overnight trip. Shoulder season around here, summertime up in Minnesota. If I'm going with somebody else, I'd probably skip the bivvy and I'd go to a tent, almost exactly like Bobby's. The 2-person Copper Spur UL from Big Agnes packs down almost as small as the 1-person. So I'd bring that 2-person tent. A little bit different setup from what Bobby has. He was going in the desert. I have water all around me. Questions at all? I kind of burned through that pretty quick, but I'm getting anxious. There's a whole bunch of lightning behind me. Nothing?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys.